And now, the most reasonable talk show host from Sop Choppy to the Redneck Riviera, here is Bob Kerrigan.
Good evening and welcome to Within Reason, with you tonight for an hour and every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. And this program is rebroadcast on Friday at 10 p.m. and then again the following Monday at 10 p.m. Thank you for your calls and your comments and your emails about our program content. Next week we'll play some of those email messages, the ones that are okay for the air. Some of the others I listen to and discard appropriately or according to what the message is. Well, the Republicans are just in a fit of disaster. Sean Hannity, who apparently is largely responsible for organizing the meandering and chartless Republican course, has called on an emergency meeting of all congressional Republicans to immediately meet and to reassert their commitment to conservative principles because they're getting their rear ends kicked in the elections. And for Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and Laura Ingraham, Neil Bortz and that goofy Cunningham guy on Sunday night, and the whole cadre of these people, they are now screaming for Republican conservative principles. The question I want to ask is, well, what are these conservative principles are you talking about? Are you talking about social conservatives, that is, not spending anything on social programs, but lavishly handing the military anything they want? Is that what you call conservative? It's not conservative by most people's assessment or definition, but it certainly seems to be the talk show conservative. So emergency meetings are being called by the talk show hosts, where the tail wags the dog. Only in the United States could that happen. Well, this guy Childers, his victory gives the Democrats a third straight takeover. Democrat Travis Childers won Tuesday's Mississippi special election runoff for Senator Roger Wicker's former Republican House seat, handing Democrats the biggest of their three special election takeovers this cycle and sending a listless GOP further into a state of disarray. The loss could send shockwaves through the Republican Party, where murmurs about leadership shakeup have become more and more audible. Republican leadership, that's an oxymoron. Who's leading of the Republicans? It's a circle, and they're all pointing at each other like the old Boss Tweed cartoon from Tammany Hall. It's his fault, it's his fault, it's her fault, it's his fault. And no one takes responsibility or blame, and they're all to blame. Wicker's former district voted 62% for President Bush in 2004. By that measure, it's one of the most conservative seats Democrats have taken from the GOP over the last 18 months, including the 2006 election. After three consecutive special election defeats in districts President Bush twice won easily, it is abundantly clear the American people have turned their back and shut the door on the special interest-driven agenda of the Republican Party, said the chairman of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, Chris Van Hollen, Democrat of Maryland. There is no district that is safe for Republican candidates because President Bush's failed policies have hurt every community in America. Well, Chris, you need to come to Northwest Florida. Okay, you need to come. If this isn't a safe seat in Northwest Florida, there's no such thing as a safe seat. We've still got people around here with Bush Cheney stickers on their car. We have people regularly calling into the radio talk shows around here discussing weapons of mass destruction that were in Iraq, but we just didn't find them. Though the Democrats' task will be more difficult in the November election, the fact is they have pulled off two special election victories with this strategy in Louisiana and Mississippi, and it should be a concern to all Republicans, said Representative Tom Cole, a Republican, and the chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee. Cole added that the political environment is such that voters remain pessimistic about the direction of the country and the Republican Party in general. My, what a nice way to put it. How about disgusted with the Republican Party? I can't find any local businessmen, bright, successful local businessmen that are even close to supporting the Republican Party for their complete fiscal irresponsibility. They're not jumping up to vote for the Democrats, but they are not enthusiastically supporting Republican candidates. Therefore, Republicans must undertake bold efforts to define a forward-looking agenda that offers the kind of positive change voters are looking for. This is something we can do in cooperation with our presidential nominee, but time is short. Bold efforts to define a forward-looking agenda for a positive change. Hello, you've been running everything for 8 years. Another talk show participant talking about how the reason there's a problem in Washington now is the Democrats were elected and they're passing bills that are bad for the country, inflationary and irresponsible. Well, if President Bush decided to veto it, virtually none of this stuff is veto-proof. None of it. So if he really wants to demonstrate what a fiscal conservative is at this late hour, he's there to do it and get a lot of press and coverage if this is really irresponsible legislation being proposed by the Democrats right now, which is not happening. Not going to happen until after the November elections. Are the Democrats capable of irresponsible legislation? You bet. So we'll have to keep watching. I mean, they're not immune from it, but they're just not doing it right now. There are so few terrorism prosecutions, but huge activity against United States citizens in terms of surveillance and watching people and gathering information about them. So more freedom? No. We have much less freedom now under George W. Bush and the Republican Party. We have no accountability. They love to talk about accountability. They never want to talk about accountability of corporate wrongdoing or of government boondoggles or complete disasters by the government, like the handling of Katrina. There's never anybody held accountable in the Republican Party. Nobody's fired. Nobody's asked to leave. Nobody's disciplined. Nobody's sanctioned. I mean, look at the fiasco in Iraq, the military fiasco in Iraq. Nothing happens. In the time-honored tradition of the military, people retire or something. I mean, nothing really happens. It doesn't matter how big a nightmare or disaster it is. So this idea of accountability is just nonsense. What they are pitching is personal accountability means that if you get hurt, that it's your fault, and you're not supposed to be able to bring a civil claim against somebody else. That's their idea of personal responsibility. It's a euphemism for corporate irresponsibility. You're responsible for anything that happens to you. Doesn't matter if they drop a block of granite on your head negligently. It's your fault. You're responsible. You take personal responsibility. And of course, they have the poster child of the McDonald's coffee cup. And they want to talk about how they are protecting us, how they're so interested in protecting us. The report that came out not too long ago that the government had no idea who was being trained as a private pilot in this country. They knew many people had been trained since 9/11. They did nothing to get a grip on that, to get a master list, to do some kind of approval of who's being trained to operate aircraft in this country. They still don't know. No real government control. Just it's out of control. Legitimate functions of government have been gutted by the Bush administration in favor of corporate America. Bob Barr, Unitarian candidate, talk about him next week. See you next week. Thanks for watching Within Reason.